So in this video, we're going to talk about the different styles of fully floating bridges, the advantages and disadvantages of each design, and which ones I personally think is the best. So all the bridges that we're going to be comparing in this video are all fully floating bridges, and what that means is that you can both depress the bar, make the pitch go lower, and also pull up. There's, in other words, a cavity that's been routed in the body so that you can pull up and make the pitch go higher. Now normally, like your traditional Fender Strat style bridge, normally the bridge is resting on the body, and then you're not really going to be able to pull up to make the pitch go any higher. You can only depress it. Other systems like a Bigsby are different from this as well. So this is just a comparison of your classic fully floating bridge design. So we're going to compare a traditional Floyd Rose system to a Strandberg system, the Ibanez traditional one. Now first things first, I need to acknowledge that yes, the systems that I am comparing are not all of the same quality. In other words, some of these are more expensive and just are better bridges by that design. That said, I am going to be pretty fair, I think, in my assessment of what I think makes one potentially better or worse than the other, even if, all of these bridges I was testing on were on the same quality instrument. So the system that I'm going to start with first is going to be your traditional double locking Floyd Rose tremolo. This is the one that Eddie Van Halen kind of used way back in the day, the one that really made the fully floating tremolo thing as popular as it was. So if anybody's thinking fully floating bridge, they usually think Floyd Rose. Now this system is double locking, so that means it has a locking nut at the top and then bolts that locks the strings down in the bridge itself. And then it basically just has some posts that are put in the body and then these knife edges that the bridge itself flexes on. All of these systems are spring loaded inside, so there's just either 2 or 3 springs. So you've just got to set that correct tension pulling on the springs in the back versus how much the strings are pulling on the bridge from the other direction. Once you get that dialed in, that's what gets your bridge to float. Now this Floyd Rose system does not feature locking posts, which would be the first thing that I would basically point out. Now most of the systems that we're going to be looking at don't have locking posts, really just the Ibanez does. Now for some people that's just not a big deal. For me, over my experience, I kind of prefer the locking posts like what's on that Ibanez system. I find that, over years and years of gigging and practicing and going to rehearsals, that bridge system just stays more reliable over time. The Floyd Rose system in this Jackson will flutter, and it does have the control that you might be looking for more nuanced whammy bar moves where you're gonna dip it slightly or pull up slightly, and it's going to stay perfectly locked in tune, especially when this tremolo system is new. Now this system will flutter, but I wouldn't describe it as accurate as some of the other tremolo systems. The next one is the Strandberg system. This one used to be unique and a little weird with ball bearings and everything, and then I'm actually kind of glad that they made the switch to just your traditional post system. So this system works exactly the same. It has some knife edges that are just inside the bridge that rests on the posts. The posts are non-locking, and then for this particular guitar you do have a locking nut at the top, but then the strings don't lock down in the bridge because they string up through the bridge to the top of the headstock. headstock, where there isn't a headstock, because it's a headless design, so they just lock at the very top. It will stay in tune, but if you start to really abuse it, it can go out, and then you have to, just take a second to kind of fine tune it. This system is also designed for kind of maintenance, so the knife edges can be replaced in the bridge very quickly and easily, so it's sort of designed to upgrade that if that component starts to wear, which will wear over time. And you can also get replacement posts. Customer service from Strandberg is fantastic. If you reach out and let them know something happened, you can get the new parts that you need to keep your guitar up and running. So now that we're about halfway through this video, if you're liking it, please hit like and subscribe. Helps my channel continue to grow. Here we do original progressive metal music, product reviews like this one, and free music lessons. So if you like it, again, hit like and subscribe, and also leave your comments down below. Why don't you tell me which bridge you guys prefer? And the last system that we're going to talk about is the Ibanez one, the traditional Low-Pro Edge tremolo system. This is the one that is, I'll be honest, my personal favorite of all of these. It's the one that I think will last the longest and is the most reliable over time. So this guitar is like the traditional Floyd Rose system, where it locks at the nut and then it locks again down in the bridge. So once you're locked in, it's not going anywhere. This system you can completely abuse and it just will not go out of tune. Although, again, it has that problem. If you break a string, you're gonna have to stop playing and fix that string and then get the whole thing in tune again. This system is the only one that includes those locking posts. So there's a small set screw inside the post itself. So once you've gotten your bridge height set, you just tighten that and then lock the post down in on itself. And by locking it like that, it's going to be so unbelievably reliable. This is something that I've found through the years. If you're gigging, if you're playing a lot of shows, if you're throwing your guitar in the back of a trailer or your band truck or whatever, this is going to make sure that that tremolo is reliable every time you pull it out of the case. The Ibanez system will flutter and it will do all of the things that you want it to do. Like I said, you can completely abuse it, and as long as you don't break a string, your guitar is perfectly in tune. So now kind of the advantages and disadvantages of each one and kind of what I would prefer. So the first thing I don't like about your traditional Floyd Rose system is that it features a screw-on tremolo tensioner. Now the thing that I don't like about that is it's very hard to keep a consistent amount of tightness on your whammy bar. In other words, if you get it tight, finger tight to where you want it, you use the bar for a little bit, that's gonna wear and then just kind of loosen really quickly. So your bar, as you're playing, can go from being very tight to all of a sudden super loose. And that's something that I just don't really like in a design. The Ibanez system is totally different. You can't adjust the tightness of your bar. It works with bushings that are built on the bar, and when you push your bar in, it's just either as tight or as loose as it's gonna be. And over time, those bushings will wear, and then your bar will get looser and looser and looser and looser. Once the bar has gotten really loose where it almost spins freely, the bridge basically won't flutter anymore. Now, it's not a huge problem. You just have to order more bushings. They're not expensive and change them. But then the problem is with new bushings, fresh ones, when you put it in, it's gonna be back to crazy tight. So there's no way to adjust that. It's just kind of wherever your instrument is at the time, and that's definitely a disadvantage of it. Now, I personally like my bar to be kind of tight, so when those bushings are fresh and new on the Ibanez system, I love how well it flutters and how accurate it is, but it is the kind of thing, if those bushings wear, there's nothing you can do about trying to create more tightness at a gig if you don't have new bushings, so that is something to keep in mind. The Strandberg system, I actually think, has the best solution to adjusting the tightness of your tremolo bar. Have a rubber bushing on the tremolo bar holder, and then you can adjust the tightness with a small set screw. So that means that you can get exactly how loose or tight you want it to be. As that bushing wears, it doesn't matter. You just make that screw tighter when you need it to be tighter, and that's kind of the solution that I like the most, because that way you can really dial in how tight or loose you want that tremolo bar to be. Remember that if the tremolo bar is loose, it's going to affect how much your bridge can flutter. Remember that the looser your tremolo bar is, it's going to make your bridge flutter less and less. So if you want your bridge to flutter as much as possible, you're going to want to be able to really lock that bar arm in there. That way you've got that one nice tight kind of unit linking the tremolo bar to the actual unit itself. So I think that is actually the one that I prefer. So which bridge do I like the most? I think actually the Strandberg system is my favorite. I think the Ibanez system is the best as far as reliability goes, especially if you're going to be really abusing your tremolo. That is going to be the one that is always reliable. Your guitar will stay perfectly in tune. The Strandberg system has this kind of light feel to it, which makes it very, very accurate for very, kind of specific whammy bar moves. If you listen to a player like Pliny, who plays a Strandberg, you'll hear him use his bar to go between different notes or different pitches. And in that kind of playing, that's where this bridge really does excel. It's very light, it's very articulate, and you can really control exactly the note that you're looking for. So those are just my opinions on this. Obviously, there's not necessarily a right or a wrong. All of these manufacturers are successful and sell thousands of their instruments, so it really is a personal preference. My preference would be the Strandberg system. I think the Strandberg is the best guitar on the market right now for ergonomics, combination of that headless design, endure neck, the way the Bowden body is built, and the way that tremolo feels. You really just can't go wrong. But I do love that Ibanez. I still have my J Custom RG7 CST that I totally love. It's like anything else in music. They've got strengths and weaknesses, and it depends on what you're looking for. Thanks for watching this video. Take it easy.